Hi, and welcome to a video about provisionally casting on stitches. For this, you will need 2 colors of yarn, a needle to cast onto, and a crochet hook of some sort. It doesn't really matter what size you have. If you have one of these Stitch Fix tools for helping with dropped stitches and the like, that works well. It makes a lot of clacky noises, so I won't be using it for the video today. And instead I'll be using my grandmother's plastic hook. This is the yarn I want to be knitting my piece with, so I need to begin with waste yarn, and I always like to use a high contrast yarn, so I'm just going to be using this dark blue here. To begin, make a slip knot. Take your yarn in sort of parallel to itself, flip it, reach through the loop, and grab the working yarn, not the tail. And when you bring that through, you'll get a knot. That knot can slip. In other words, it can change its size. And so we're going to put that on our crochet hook, not on our needle. Once we have our crochet hook and our needle, we're going to hold them sort of parallel to each other. I always like to take the tail and sort of hold it attached to the needle. It seems to give me a purchase, a working place. So you want to go over the needle, grab the yarn, and bring it through the loop on the hook. Then bring the yarn behind the needle again, go over the needle, grab the yarn, go through and make a loop. When choosing waste yarn for the provisional cast on, don't choose something that has a lot of grip, a lot of halo, a lot of fuzziness to it. You want the yarn to be something that is going to unzip, as it were, really easily. So something that is slick or tightly plied is always a good option for you. Now you may notice that I am using a crochet hook that is not the same size as my intended needle, and that's all right because it's the size of the needle really that determines the size of the stitches, and this isn't really a stitch, this is just going to be a placeholder into which we will make the first row of stitching. Once you have the right number of stitches on your needle, what I'm going to advise you to do is a trick I learned from Lucy Neatby. Sometimes it's hard to know which side of a provisional cast on to start your unzipping, and getting the right side makes all the difference in it unzipping or you're unpicking with a lot of work. So once you've finished casting on the right number of stitches, with the hook off to the side, ignoring the needle for now, just make a few extra chains. And that will be the side where you unzip from. So to finish this off, all you're going to do is cut the yarn, or break it, since I don't have my scissors with me, and pull on the yarn in the loop until it comes through and fastens itself. And so now I have one end with a regular sort of start and one end with the unzip here chains waiting and ready to let me know when it's time. All right, having created this signpost, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the yarn and we're going to begin knitting at the side without those extra chains. So I'm just going to push this over to where I want to work it, grab my working yarn, and I'm just going to follow the directions of my pattern. Most of the time you will want to work a plain knit everything sort of row. If you do anything fancy in here, it becomes more of a problem to pick up those stitches afterwards or to work them in any way. So generally speaking, the next step is just to knit everything. And that's our first bit of knitting after the provisional cast on. It's time to unzip our provisional cast on. We cast on, we knit across on this side, and now we are going to unravel using these chains as our start here signifier. So we need to pull the length of the tail out of this first loop. That's how we secured it. So now we need to unsecure it. Having done that, we can now just sort of ripcord this chain and it will just come unraveled. This first stitch may need a little bit of extra encouragement here just to unloop. And once you've sort of gotten through there, this should just naturally pop, pop, pop. Now, if you are a nervous knitter, you may want to catch each stitch as you go. Wool or wool blends should not just disappear. As long as the stitches aren't pulled side to side, they won't want to go down. But if you would like to do this more cautiously, you would kind of pull one off at a time. To get them seated on the needle properly, you need to go through the loop from behind. Now, if you'd like this to be something that you grab even before you release it, if you grab the loop rather than the tail, it won't unravel. You can pull hard and see the stitch underneath. Go through from back to front, and then you can unravel that next one. Or you can just let it pop off and grab it. With this stage, it's always great to have a pretty pointy needle tip. If you've been using blunter needles for some reason for your project, you may want to switch to a sharper needle just for this picking up stage, and then go back to the needle you've been using for your project. And there we have it. All that's left is the slip knot that we had on the crochet chain or crochet hook when we started. We now have our stitches ready and waiting for whatever's next in our pattern. So that's provisional cast on using the crochet hook. It's definitely my favorite method.